Hello everybody, my name is King Coatl, and this past Thursday, 2 days ago, I went to the theaters to watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, I went into that theater a young boy, and I came out a changed man. I'm going to be talking about everything that I have with this movie, so questions, comments, concerns, additions, my overall analysis of this perfected piece of media that I saw in the theater 48 hours ago. I'm going to be doing it spoiler-free, so you guys can watch this video with 100% comfort knowing that I won't be spoiling anything, but I will be talking about the characters, the plot just a little bit, and small details here and there. So if you guys don't want to hear anything about the movie, I will not be disappointed if y'all click off right now. You have been warned, I'm not going to spoil anything like I said, but I will be talking in just a little bit of detail, but just enough to let your mind run free with imagination. Now, I'm going to try to structure this video as neatly as possible. No promises, because I have so much emotions that are just waiting to spill out. I'm going to start off with the art style. Coming into this movie, it was very evident to say that, the success of its predecessor, Into the Spider-Verse, had so much going for it with this movie. There was a lot to live up to, and oh my god, did this movie stand up to its predecessor and stand taller in every single category. The art style was absolutely perfected. The characters returned, but obviously they looked a little different, and that kind of symbolized their maturity from the first movie, as there was just a little bit of a time skip. I don't know if it was days or whatever it may be. It wasn't super important, but it was kind of important, Small little details like that were really evident, not only in Miles' room and how it stood up, but, him, his friends, other characters. Spider-Man's suit overall as a whole did develop and upgrade and evolve within this movie, and it was really cool to see. Now, the characters themselves were especially fleshed out with the animation overall. I think the stylized choices that Into the Spider-Verse brought to the table have carried out into the animated genre as a whole. It was very influential, and that was evident to see with the most recent Puss in Boots movie, and even now with the upcoming TMNT movie in the near future. Those two movies, I think it's pretty safe to say how much they took inspiration from Across and Into the Spider-Verse. And, the stylized choice has a lot to do with that. The art style, it being cel-shaded, the way that it was animated, skipping over certain amounts of frames to make it look like it's a comic book really coming to life. This movie was a perfected visual masterpiece. Every single frame looked so beautiful. It was so eye-catching. But that's not even to say that it only focused on visuals. I would say that was the least of its concerns regarding how well organized and structured and huge the plot was. The conflict was amazing. All of the tension built up leading to the climax of the movie and kind of what it leads up to even afterwards. A lot of it was so beautifully structured in its own perfect way. And I love this movie. It was so good. Now, going into what do I want to talk about next? I think we're going to talk about the characters, right? The world building, especially with the characters, was so fleshed out. I love seeing how Miles has evolved, right? Genki does return. I'm not going to say to what extent, but, Genki's character does return. Seeing him grown up as well, hearing him mature, it was really cool to see. And a lot of those attentions to detail really do bring out, this world is evolving in every single way. Seeing Miles now that he's more mature with some Spider-Man experience, it really does start to flesh out its own journey of expectations and how everyone sees Spider-Man in their own way. How does he live up to the Spider Society, to his parents as a child, to his school as a student, and everything else? How does he live up to himself and how he feels like he should be Spider-Man? But my favorite part about the Spider conflict in this movie was Gwen Stacy's character. Obviously, in the first movie, she was a pretty fleshed out person in her own right. But in this movie, they take every small detail in her upbringing and they multiply it. As was laid out in the first movie and kind of her foundation, Gwen Stacy is someone who's lost Peter Parker in her universe. When she becomes Spider-Woman, she feels like she doesn't have anyone to really relate to because her only friend is gone now. So her personal life begins to crumble. She really starts to feel the weight of being Spider-Woman because she doesn't feel that relation to anybody, right? Her father, of course, being a police officer of great renown, very similar to Miles, she begins to feel like the only person she can relate to is essentially this alternate universe version of herself, which is Miles. They both go through very similar obstacles to become Spider-Man and woman respectively, but even after that, their work-life balance, them falling out of with friends, them losing their connection with their parents because they have to hide this identity now, it really becomes almost a soulmate type of vibe that I feel between them. And that's not even to say that it's a romantic feeling necessarily. It's more so how they complete each other, because they are literally each other's other half. They are the same person but in different forms. And it's really cool to see. I mean, their friendship across dimensions, across universes, it's just so beautiful to see, and I really did relate to that. It was really nice. Having that one friend that kind of is always there for you, and you feel like you can relate to them in the darkest of times when no one else can. That was something that I took out of Spider-Gwen's character, and I just ran with it. That really... It touched my soul in a way that a lot of stories really don't. The rest of her character is really nice. A lot of the colors, the vibrant art styles. One thing that I really liked about this story that it really, upgraded and understood from its success in the first movie was painting the backgrounds of every conflict, both literally and metaphorically. One example I will use is Gwen doesn't see eye to eye with her father. She feels like he can't understand her. And especially with this hidden persona, this, Spider-Gwen, she feels like she has to hide that even more. When they meet eye to eye and they start to talk it out and they start arguing with each other, the background starts being this dull color because, it really shows like her personal conflict and what she's feeling on the inside. Very similar, kind of a weird comparison, but in Ratatouille, when Remy's eating the different food and he closes his eyes, he takes a bite of the cheese and he sees all these different colors in the background and these different feelings and emotions that are really personified with these colors in the background. Then he eats the strawberry and it's a whole different world of flavor. And the background really paints that for like a visual, like a person who kind of feels visually. You see that, right? You see the visual emotions and you close your eyes and you feel the same thing. It's really painted like that with Gwen's struggle. And her conflict, it starts off as a very dull background, but as she starts to see eye to eye with her father and starts to talk it out, it starts building up. The music in the background starts to swell. It's, the pounding of the drums as she is a drum player. It really starts to build up and it explodes in this beautiful array of different colors that is really implicative of her character overall, but her universe as a whole and how it's obviously a shadow of what our universe is. It's not the exact same thing. Her universe is filled with a bunch of vibrant colors. Her being her own Spider-Gwen, it's so beautiful and it is perfectly captured. Even in the city, the way that they both traverse with their webs, the way that they web swing is so stylistic depending on their character. Miles is, a modern day teenager, very similar to me, someone who likes to listen to music, someone who's all about fashion and stuff like that. So when he swings around the city, it's so stylized. He has a lot of style, the exaggerated swagger, I guess you could say, of his character. And with Gwen, since she's like a ballet student, her suit really does play into like her ballerina shoes, but even her swinging style, it's so perfected. It's such swift movement. It's not this energetic outburst that Miles is. It's this perspective of a dancer, a free-flowing ribbon of silk flowing through the city, and it's so beautiful. I also want to talk about the Spot being the main villain of the movie, quote-unquote, and he starts off as like this comedic punchline. He doesn't even know how to use his powers. He looks goofy. The way he's drawn, all of his proportions, he has such a goofy build to him. And he represents that not only because he's such a clumsy person who doesn't even know how to use his powers, but the way that he acts. He's such a comedic person. He's like, I'm going to be taken seriously. I'm a villain. But he doesn't even know how to be a villain, right? And as the movie progresses, not only does his 3D shift as being a goofy proportional character start to become almost like a 2D horror vibe of almost like a Slender Man, like he has so much distortion around him. It's hard to see who he is. The black and white kind of blends together. Obviously very implicative of, as he starts off as an all-white character, a blank slate with these black spots on him. And as his powers progress, as he starts to become more seriously, it starts to become more distorted and less visible of where his face is, He starts to also form from a white to black character. as he literally changes color throughout the movie, but more importantly, he goes from this goofy, nonsensical comedic punchline to a more serious evil villain with some true evil intentions, and it's so cool to see. The last thing I will say is the new characters are amazing. Obviously, Spider-Man 2099, played by Oscar Isaac, did an absolutely amazing job. He really did crush his role. Obviously, every single actor in this movie did their thing with it. But 2099, you know, he is such a menacing aura around him. He's so serious. The weight of the world is on his shoulders, and it really does show through his character design. He has these dark eye bags. He's starting to go pale almost. But, I mean, he's always serious all the time, and it really does go with his presence. His theme with it, very similar to the Prowlers with the, you know, like the soundtrack with the Prowler theme. He has his own theme. And 2099's, I dare say, is probably better than Prowler's. It's so cool. It captures that menacing vibe with it. But obviously, he's his own character, and he's his own force to be reckoned with. Spider-Punk, my favorite Spider-Man, usually comes to life as Hobie Brown, played by Daniel Kaluuya. And oh my god, does he crush that role. He is so cool. I love Spider-Punk. He was a great part of that movie. Seeing Spider-Bite being her own character, someone who's, you know, on the thin line of being someone who's with the Spider Society and someone who leans more with compassion with Miles. It's really cool to see. Returning Spider people from the first movie. I won't spoil anything. I think that's about, you know, wraps it up for what I wanted to say about this movie. It is a great masterpiece. Visually, artistically, you know, the audio representation, everything about this, the soundtrack, the storyline, the conflict, the tension that arises, and the setup for the next movie. What I will say about it, there will be a next movie. That's pretty obvious, right? The ending is absolutely crazy. There's so many plot twists that I saw. I will say that I saw. I'm a little detective throughout the movie. I was like, oh my god, you know, this is this, this is this, this means this, this isn't supposed to be happening, this is what's happening, you know? It's so crazy to see. If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I cannot wait to see it. Like I said, I might come up with another video talking about actual spoilers, but as of now, this has been your spoiler-free review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I will be giving it a 10 out of 10, obviously. I mean, if I could go any higher, you know, matter of fact, I'm giving it a 2099 out of 10. This movie was actual perfection. Coming off the success of the first one, you know, it was a lot to live up to. Another 10 out of 10. I can confidently say this was the best Spider-Man movie and best iteration of the character overall. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to discuss in the comments below, please be very understanding that not everyone's seen the movie. So keep that in mind, right? Don't spoil anything for anyone else. But I'll be more than happy to talk about it with y'all in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go watch it now in theaters. I will probably be watching it again. And I'm going to be buying as much Spider-Verse merch as I can for the next movie. Have a great day. Stay safe. Take care. Peace. Adios. And of course, until next time. Bye-bye.